Thank you so much, Paul, and greetings to your listeners. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you so much for honoring this interview. Right off the bat, let's start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I am a managing partner for an African led political campaign company called Shikama Political Advisory and Campaign Services. We run and manage political campaigns in Africa. We also provide political advisory to political parties and candidates and corporates. And we also offer risk and reputation management. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. And in line with that, one of our key products that we have recently launched is the International Political Campaign Expo, which is a platform that brings together key stakeholders that have got an interest in the area of political campaigns. It's the first of its kind in the world. We also recently convened a meeting of key stakeholders under the banner of International Political Campaigns Expo to discuss the issue of AI in political campaigns. We also run an executive course on political campaigns with the University of Cape Town and the Africa Leadership University in Rwanda. So these are some of the key things that we do as a political campaign firm.
There's a lot of talk about big tech and regulation. Why is it important for these big tech companies to be regulated?
You agree with me that political campaigns have evolved. Technology is now at the center of all political campaigns. So it's very difficult for any society to run away from the impact of technology. I think with the penetration of mobile connectivity across Africa, use of mobile phones, citizens now can be reached from their mobile phones. And therefore, if you want to be able to ensure the integrity of elections, you can't run away from talking to the big tech companies who are churning out most of these solutions and who are working across the continent.
There are people who are pro-regulation, and there are those who say maybe they shouldn't even regulate AI at all, or any tech companies. Why is that?
It's very important for us to understand that, for example, if you're talking about AI, AI is still at its nascent stage. I think there are many solutions that are being developed that have to do with messaging, targeting, and mobilization. But while these tools are being developed, there is also a risk that comes with these key tools that are there that warrants regulation. Because if you don't regulate, let's talk about messaging. If you've got a tool that is in the wrong hands, it gives an opportunity to disinformation. It also affects the credibility of the process and the credibility of the electoral process. So you can't have such a process unregulated. And corporates, they are in it for profit. So while they're in it for profit, if you don't regulate them, it becomes a free for all for people who are using it for good and those who are using it for bad. And so you can't do that. So we need to balance the act. So the idea of us talking about regulation is for us to find a middle spot that allows business to thrive, but also ensuring that the tools are used effectively in the different countries.
You recently organized one of the biggest AI and political campaigns event. In fact, probably the first one on the continent, talking to stakeholders, different political parties, people who run electoral bodies across the continent, talking about the use of AI in political campaigns, regulation. What were some of your biggest takeaways?
This is the first in the world, Paul. And I think the reason why we want to mention that is that one of the motivation for us to do that was that considering the number of elections that we have across the world. So if you look at it this year, we've got 60 elections across the world. In the next 48 months, we're going to have 3.8 billion going to the polls. For us, organizing this was very important because we want to regularly hold events like this to promote a discussion around political campaigns, ensuring that the key assets that have to do with political campaigns are effective and they can be able to be user-friendly. What are some of our key takeaways from it? Number one, our political parties are not yet sophisticated enough for them to be able to embrace effective tools of running political campaigns. That's number one. Number two, we need to professionalize our field of political campaigns, meaning that the use of data, use of expertise, is integral and important. Number three, citizens, in as much as they want to participate in elections, they feel like the field remains stuck in the traditional methods of political campaigns. They would want it to improve so that they've got trust in the process. So the reason why our political campaigns are not generating quality candidates or policies that can be able to improve the lives of people is because the sector remains stuck in the past. It's not evolving. Another key area that we notice that we have not brought in big tech in it. I think there are a number of reasons why big tech is a bit resistant. I think politics is a very sensitive area. They don't want to dabble in it, but they can't resist because their tools are being used. So we need to find a way in which we encourage big tech to responsibly be part and parcel of this conversation. Another key area that came out that is important is election management bodies. The referees of these elections, in as much as they rely on laws and policies, it's no longer faster and easier to get laws passed to regulate this. So we now need to rely on self-regulation, coming up with key areas of good conduct in management of these tools. So these are some of the key takeaways that came out from this. But more importantly, as Africa, we need to invest in building skills across Africa. We need to invest in putting money in institutions that can be able to do research and evolve. We cannot be complaining about regulation and innovation of the field if we are not pouring money in that sector of research and innovation. So those are the areas that we are dealing with. And the Expo for us is not just a talk show. It's a platform where we are moving on to identify key areas and ensuring that we develop them. Lastly is your area, Paul, of media. Where is the media? They need to be taught. They need to understand what is AI, how do we use it, and especially when campaigns have to do with messaging, the issue of regulating them. How do they use it responsibly? How do they identify disinformation from proper information to circulate? So this is a very, very good discussion that we have initiated, and we are hoping other key stakeholders take this conversation.
There's a lot happening online, especially young children, young people have become victims of harassment. Some people have even killed themselves because of the kind of harassment they get online. How can now regulators, even in Africa or whether it's here in the United States, come to terms with it, with what's going on? How can they hold these big tech companies to account?
So with regulation, I have a view that there is always scope to learn from each other, but context matters. We cannot copy and paste how regulation is taking place in the West, but we can obviously learn from it. The context of Africa differs in a number of areas. The social, political, and economic context should drive the process. Secondly, the understanding of the context. If you come up with a one-size-fits-all rule in Africa, where you've got disparities in technology, disparities in affordability of either data and technology, you also don't want the regulations to provide a skewed field between ruling and opposition party, because regulation can play a very negative role. So we want regulation to be done mindful of context and reality, but there is really scope for us to be able to learn from each other. And this is why we are saying, in as much as there is an advanced conversation in the West in terms of how to regulate, we have started a conversation on how to deal with political campaigns at first, and we hope to contribute to that body of knowledge and be part and parcel of getting ideas from elsewhere that we can be able to make global.
Bringing technology into politics in Africa, or it could play a totally negative role in trying to advance democracy in Africa?
Every tool that comes in is an opportunity and a threat. It's an opportunity because I don't think every voter will now be accessed by inviting them to a rally and to a whistle stop. I think technology has already shown us. You can advertise your commodity on someone's mobile phone. You can reach out to someone on someone's mobile phone. You can pay bills. You can do everything. But the reality now is, can you campaign to an individual over the phone? Yes or no? In an environment where there are 500 political parties, are you not going to end up inundating a voter? How does a voter separate what is correct and what is not correct? So all these are issues that we have to be able to deal with. But the reality is there is now more opportunity to reach a voter in close proximity using a phone, and that is a tool of access, a computer or an iPad.
Glenn, you've crisscrossed the continent doing political communications, advising different political parties across the continent, governments across the continent. What stands out for you? What is lacking, or what is it that these political parties or governments in power can do to connect with the average voter? Because in most cases, it's like you have two messages. You have people who have absolutely no idea how to connect with either the ruling party or opposition parties because the messaging is completely off.
I think one of my greatest takeaway, having traversed the African continent running political campaigns, is the failure of our politicians, our political parties to use data in decision making and policy formulation. There's a lot of use of anecdotes. And the reason why we don't have quality leadership, the reason why our policies are not working, is we are not relying on data. We've got so much data that has been churned out. Public opinion institutions like Afrobarometer, statisticians that have done that, World Value Surveys, the World Bank, all these are tools at the disposal of politicians, but their failure to harness it. So at the onset, if a political party doesn't use data, it means that whatever they're going to proffer as their strategy, as their manifesto, what they're selling to the voter is already messed up. So we need to, first of all, build a critical mass of our politicians relying on skills and data. The second level of observation that I've noticed is that our people are making decisions on who to vote for from a very, very misinformed perspective. They have very little information. And it's also a responsibility of political parties, but also the media. Our media is just now doing surface work. They should also rely on data. What does data tell us about these candidates? Who should they vote for? So we have a tragedy in the political space that the quality of information and the candidates coming from there is not up to par with the demands that are required on the continent.
Speaking of the media, you and I are in this space, and you're a prolific writer, by the way. I've seen some of your work. You write extensively about some of these things. What role should the media play when it comes to maybe advancing a technology in Africa or being on the cutting edge of technology as some of these tools, especially AI tools, continue to evolve?
The role of media is to inform. You cannot inform if you are not skilled. You cannot inform if you are not knowledgeable. So one of the challenges that our media is facing is it transitioning from the mainstream media that was used to the digital platforms. So the challenge that is there is media has to be adept. It has to move very fast with the scope and with the world in terms of where things are happening. Very rarely do I read articles from the media that are anchored on data. Whenever I'm reading an article that comes from a media, it's very qualitatively driven. There is very little application of an understanding and an analysis in terms of what does this mean. I remember one of the examples that I give is that in every election, you'll find journalists reporting to you how many people came to the poll, who won, who lost. Very little effort is put on those people who did not vote while they were registered, or those who did not register while they are eligible. There is a story there. You need to cover that story because it's important. But very few journalists would want to do that. I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day. I was saying, when an election is about to take place, even if you are not working in that country, I think one of our responsibilities as an advisory firm is to bring in journalists and explain numbers to them, the implications, so that the stories are rich. Voters only rely on what the media gives. So it's very, very important. It's not difficult to explain numbers even to the lowest of our people who are not literate. They will understand it. But the unfortunate thing is our media is not really skilled enough to be able to advance that agenda.
Maybe there is an opportunity for you since you're already into that space. That's an opportunity where you can tap into and do maybe training for the media. To
That's one of the things that we would like to do, to invest our time in training the media on reporting on the political campaigns. We're in the process of developing that curriculum, and we hope we're going to do that soon because it's an area that concerns us a lot. That we need them to report responsibly and report in an informative manner to be able to help the voter.
how can people tap into the different forms of technology that is already out there? How can the average person, the media, you people who are into the political space, how can politicians tap into this technology to use it to advance whatever cause they want to advance?
I think the tools are available to be used. And one of the things that we'd like to do is to create an open source where people can be able to get those tools and use themselves. We recently, at the end of this expo, launched a hackathon that is going to be encourage startups across the continent to develop tools and solutions for political parties to use. The whole idea is once these tools have been developed, want them to be easily accessible to political parties and the media to use. So it's one of the things that we want to do, that we don't want to talk about problems, we want to provide the solutions for them to use and also train them on how to use them. So we are on that journey, and we hope we can be able to get a critical mass that can work with us in that.
On that note, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Glenn.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime.